2024 is the 45th anniversary of the events that took place in 1979 in Ghana, where in that year there were 3 heads of states, 2 attempts to overthrow governments, one of which was successful, and the execution of 6 top military leaders, including 2 former heads of states. What was it like living in those tumultuous times? My guest on History Time is Brigadier General Joseph Nunoo Mensah. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Kafu.
In 1979, what was your role in the Ghana Armed Forces?
79, the year of the May 15th and June 4th. I was actually Chief of Staff when Achampong was removed the year before, 78.
Mm-hmm.
Then Akufo was the Chief of Defense Staff, and he moved on to become the head of the government. So a new Chief of Defense Staff was brought, being the late General Joshua Hamidu, whom I knew very well. And I worked with him almost throughout our military life.
Mm-hmm. As a Chief of Staff, what did that entail? What were your responsibilities?
Chief of Staff is like like a prime minister in a government that was the president. I mean, you run the government. You run the general headquarters. You are the boss. CDS is just a figurehead. Everything is done. Nothing goes to him without coming through you. So a very powerful individual. As Chief of Staff. Very powerful.
What was the Ghana Armed Forces like in the year before 79, in 78? What was the army like? What was Ghana like?
You know, the military had always been a wonderful profession. I wish everybody would have the experience I had from Norway, Winneba, fishing in Accra, in the military. I mean, it was fantastic. But you see, the military that I joined in 1960 was coming through a phase. Nkrumah had become Prime Minister, President, and wanted to build a new army, not based on the British Army that we had inherited from. So they picked these young, wonderful people, Akufo. These were wonderful people. I mean, Boache, Ashe Larson, Afrifa. But they were the best of everything that you can pick around the world. We didn't have any inferiority complex when I was in Britain. We felt as good as the British. We had been trained very well. So coming all the way to 1979, you had a first-class military.
Although your military was involved in coup d'etats for 66 and 72.
Yes.
And several other attempts in between.
Yes. The coup that actually changed everything was the Achampong coup 1972. The coup of 1966, which removed Nkrumah, wasn't designed to get the military involved in politics. Somehow, whoever did the coup those days, the main purpose was removing Nkrumah, take power back to Busia, 1969, and then back to barracks. But then when Achampong came in 1972, the whole thing changed. No longer army sitting back, but army was involved in the governance of the country.
Looking back, was that a regretful thing?
I mean, I regretted a lot that the military became political. I really felt very bad about it. Well, in our training, we had been taught. When I went to Britain for the first 1961, the first visit from Sandhurst, which is about 30 miles from London, Camberley, was to go to the House of Lords, House of Commons, and see democracy in action. But they're telling us that the military are not the bosses of we are servants of the state. The political authority was the parliament. So we have been made to understand that we had no business in governance of a country. So when Achampong, so that in 66, the military were not actually involved. There were ministers. Kokopom, there was Obama, it was quite a long time. Civilians were appointed to run the government. And the NLC in those days, just make sure that things were being done.
National Liberation Council.
Exactly. But in 72, Achampong changed the whole scenario. When he removed Busia, he then got the military involved in politics. That to me was a tragic situation. But what you want to get the military involved in politics, first of all, we are not trained to run a government. We are trained to defend the state, to be loyal to the state and defend it in terms of deeds. But get us involved in politics, it created many, many, many problems for us.
What kind of problems?
First of all, Achampong appointed young officers like Joe Philly was a major. Agbo, those who Kwame Ban, you wouldn't know them. Salome, Tony Salome, these were. Babo was a term my senior. Many of them were junior to us, and the military thrive on hierarchy, thrives on order. So when you bring young officers, majors and sort of captains to become ministers, and when they came across and met a brigadier, a chief of staff, or army commander, who were the boss? They behave as if they were the bosses. So that blurred the political, discipline that we used to have. It brought a lot of problems. There were ministers who were majors. When they would go and try to maybe shake hand of him, general. No, it wasn't. It's not done.
No.
So that is what my biggest regret was: the military getting involved. They could have a problem, but getting the military involved even created a bigger problem for the military.
So paint a picture of Ghana for us in 79, the beginning of 1979. Achampong was no longer in power because he had been removed by a pilot school. How did that happen?
The pilot school was organized in this room here.
In this room? You're responsible for getting General Achampong out of power?
Yes. You see,
who were the conspirators?
Things had begun to go wrong. Like I said, the military was getting a bit jittery about our past, our discipline was getting lost. So we wanted to get, in fact, in 77 rather, I myself, General Hamidu, and I met General Hamidu. At one of our meetings, we used to have a committee like called the Military Advisory Council, advising the military government when things were going wrong. Like the second chamber of senior officers, I was one of them, chief of staff. And people like some of us were quite bold in airing our views about these things.
You talked directly to the head of state?
Through this committee.
Okay.
And he was informed that some of us didn't like the way things were happening. Some of us, like Major General Hamidu, then commandant of the South Korea, chief of staff, the idea was simply get out of politics. But we were getting dirty. And the military that we knew was getting dirty. Don't get involved in corruption. Doing things which were all military.
Did you get feedback from the head of state, General Achampong, with the advice that you gave through the council?
The feedback was that a day or two after this advice, I was watching TV in my room. When I saw my picture, one of the pictures on the television, appointed High Commissioner to Uganda.
They were sending you out of the country. Did you go?
I said, no, I won't go anywhere. No, see, the military is beautiful. And I'm sorry for having lost these wonderful people. And Akufo then had traveled to London in June for one of these military exhibitions. 78. And he's a fine gentleman. These people were just unique. I mean, they were fantastic. You didn't meet them. They were a beauty to work with. Disciplined. He was in a Presbyterian school. I was in a Presbyterian school. Disciplined before he became to the army. And he worked like a clock. So we had a meeting. I jumped out written to Akufo. Somehow the military, he had a feeling things were going wrong with the military. So he wrote to the chief of defense staff at the time, Akufo, and told him to sort out the indiscipline problem we had in the military. So we had a meeting at the Burma camp, general headquarters, our chief of staff. Chief of staff is the secretary of the committee, head of the military, Air Force, Navy, Army, CDS, and chief of staff. General Utuka was the commandant of border guards. Then the meeting, we discussed this letter which he wrote to the chief of defense staff. I was there. And we came to the conclusion that we had to remove the president, the chairman of the we came to conclusion unanimously. Because we felt that we wouldn't be able to do anything with Achampong there. He wouldn't agree. He wanted to get out of the politics that we were in. He said no. The only way to get out was to get himself out, and we all get out after he's gone. So Okobo just looked at me, pointed to me and said, Joe, get it done. I swear, that's what I said. Go and get it done. That was it. They are supposed to remove the government. I mean, plot is one of the most fantastic. This is where if you had a good training, it's wonderful.
So when he said get it done, then what happened? When did the meeting happen here?
The meeting was Monday morning. Get it done. How to get? I mean, it's an order. Once get it done, you have no option but get it done.
What was your rank then?
I was a brigadier general.
Okay.
I've been brigadier for a very long time. Get it done. And my bedroom was where? Somewhere here. So that I plot the whole thing.
Were you alone when you were plotting?
My family, they were sleeping.
Oh, you were sitting by yourself?
Yeah, no. God, I mean, you must be. When you go through this training I've gone through, it's fantastic.
So how did you do the plan? Did you have a piece of paper and a pen and write things down?
I just look at a strategy and how to get it done. Without a gun shot, without a single person being shot. Do it such a way that people were working. In fact, that day they were working like we are sitting down here. And the jump had been removed. Nobody knew that he had been removed.
Walk us through the events of the day. How did you...
No, it wasn't. This was sometime in... a bit earlier.
Yeah, in 78.
So, yes, so in terms of months, a few months. So I had to sit down, have a strategy, how to get it done, without anybody being hurt. We didn't mean to hurt Achampo. We didn't mean to hurt. The idea is just get out of politics. We're not professionals. We're not trained at Sandhurst, in Canada, in Russia, in America, or in India. Spend a year there to come and run government. That's not our job. But to get out of politics, we had to get Achampo out. We didn't hate him. That's why nothing happened to him when we were moved until June 4th. So get it done, I had to plot it. And went back to all my training at Sandhurst, the staff college, what I've learned.
Because you're also military intelligence.
Yes.
So all that factored into your
every time it was. That's why I go to get it there. Because you knew that you don't go to science and top your class. There's a paper here at the best overseas of the cadet, just behind you. And say you don't have the brain to get it done. You knew I had the brain to go to this big school, the biggest in the world. And then you are Jack, a fisherman's son from Winneba. You didn't go to any good school like Achimota. But you have a natural brain to get things done. Yes, go and get it done. So I didn't say, no question. And it was done. The idea simply was this was, I think, took place on the 5th of July, 1978. And how the politicians there. If you want to go to, I don't want to be teaching anybody.
When did he know that he was no longer in charge?
Achampo.
Yes.
On the morning in question, we had done this. I brought all the commanders from across the country. The idea was to let the military hierarchy be there and tell him that
in the face.
Enough is enough. We have lost our support. And that's how I plan it. With that, get the military hierarchy there. The letter became the object of our discussion. We had taken a decision to remove him, but the people who came to the meeting, nobody knew.
Had
any inclination that this was going to happen until that day. In fact, even in the room, many of them were shocked to hear that. We had met actually to discuss the letter which Achampo had written to Chief of Defense Staff. Our recommendations had all been there. Nothing to do with the coup d'etat, nothing. So when Akufo, at the beginning, it was a big room, Achampo's office. We all went in there and got up with all the commanders, Achampo and other senior officers present. Mr. Akum, the IGP at the time, I think he died not long ago. I don't think you know him. He was the IGP. He was, I don't know why he was there, but he was there because a meeting with the head of state. So everybody who was anybody was there. The coup had to get up. And to the surprise of many, those who were there, said to them that we had decided that you are, we are taking power from you. From now, you are no longer the head of state. All the commanders were sitting down there. Now, if you were there and you were not informed, we don't get up and say anything. It was an absolute shock. Nobody, everyone just didn't know what to do.
What was General Achampo's reaction?
He just got a pen and signed. He didn't ask one question.
Oh, you had to prepare the letter for him?
Prepared the paper. I mean, you weren't writing paper. Nothing was typed. It was top secret.
Top secret.
What do I sign? He said with green ink, signed. The meeting didn't take more than 5 minutes. Before then, we had taken over the entire Burma camp, that perimeter of his office. The late Mensah Wood, I don't know whether may have heard his name or read about him somewhere, was the engineer regiment, the commandant of the engineer regiment, with permission of the army commander, or that Wellington. We had moved the troops to the immediate area around the office had been taken over by the military. And the soldier, nobody, see, the thing is that it must be done with top secrecy. And to such that the soldiers didn't even know where they were going.
How about his aide-de-camp? I mean, a general will not move alone. How did you...
Before the whole thing started, we had disarmed all his bodyguards. Means we had moved in there with the heavily armed engineer troops, heavily armed, going for battle with I mean, they looked,
menacing.
Disarmed. So as we sat in there, they didn't know that they had been with the king without troops. They've all been gone. So I don't think he knew. So by the time that we said he should hand over power, he had nobody. I mean, so that ended the meeting. He signed a paper giving power back to Akufo.
When did Ghana hear about it on GBC?
12 o'clock news. This is what happened about 10 to 11. First time anybody heard about it, even within my camp, people heard about the news. Nobody. It was like a normal meeting.
This is the fruit of your planning in this house.
The beauty of when I get a good training.
Yeah. And so that now the head of state is now General Akufo. What happens to General Champon? Where is he sent to go?
General Ano Kwenu, do you know him? Ano actually given orders to take him to Akosombo. Nkrumah just overlooking the dam. A beautiful chalet in Nkrumah built there. He was taking that to cool. It's not something that it was traumatic. I mean, it wasn't easy. I'm talking as if it was fun. It wasn't funny at all. It's serious business. So Champon was taking that. I'm not sure whether he flew and Queen was around. I can't remember. Champon wouldn't want to travel by air. I don't know why. But they wouldn't want, but I don't know why they went by I think maybe by chopper, that he was forced to go by chopper to Akosombo.
So was that effectively a house arrest?
No. Not a house arrest. I mean, it didn't take time. He was allowed to go. In fact, the biggest problem we faced from the junior officer with Rawlings, they saw many of my colleagues having amassed some wealth. It annoyed them. And the anger they had, why the coup came, they felt that even if Champon hadn't left, that you should have gone far to deal with fellow officers who had misconducted themselves financially.
So that was their reaction to, I mean, when the junior officers heard that the head of state had been changed.
I mean, it came on air. I mean,
what was their reaction though?
I mean, there was no meeting of sort. But obviously, if you had Rawlings at the early part of 79, June 4th, his biggest problem was that some of my colleagues, and he was right, some of my colleagues had amassed wealth. I myself, on June 4th, I mean, I knew General Rawlings not closely, but therefore I was much senior to him, and therefore we had nothing in common. But once I saw this fair-colored young officer, very slim chap, very smart. In fact, I became fond of him in 1978. There was we bought some armored cars. We were tying them in Lower Volta, so the Koto area there. And he showed some crazy flying thing that I was actually impressed.
What did you do with the airplane?
He was doing anything with the plane, flying, almost hitting the trees. I mean, it was so daring, so frightening. And you could see that he was different. So along the Volta, as if he was touching the water, and just peel off. Such bravery. I took note of him. Who is this? So I began to find out who he was until June 4th.
But let's go back to, because before June 4th, there was May 15th. And before May 15th, Ghana was actually in the process of gearing up for a civilian election. A process that had started in 77 with the moves to find out what kind of government Ghanaians wanted, and then
Champon regime.
Yes. So politically, in 79, the country was getting ready for elections, correct?
Champon began a movement. I know what I'm sure you've read about it. Tried to form a union government.
What would be the consequence part of that government?
The idea sounded okay. I mean, I've always believed that even coming to today, the politics we are conducting in Ghana is filthy. We have NDC, NPP. We are not getting nowhere. So the idea of forming when we're in a crisis, like Churchill did during the Second World War, government was was a union government. I mean, they came together. No need for politics. You want to fight a common enemy. You want to fight the common enemy rather than fighting among yourselves. So when the idea came that we're going to form a union government, it was beautiful. But the only snag was that
Who would be in this new government? Civilians?
this is the problem. If I jump on, you see the thing that when we, honestly, myself and Hamidu, earlier told you, I said at this meeting, if I knew I jump on well, we have called me and said, Joe, why are you saying you should go? And I told him my honest point of view. I said, look, you resign your position, not when you are going down, it's when you are going up. And you've done so well. You've done this house I'm living in. Today, if I were to put the money that I paid for this house, I can't even buy a bottle of clinker with the money. You've done so well. All this, it was amazing. Ghana has a brick and housing, wonderful. So go. Instead, I think power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think we're enjoying the thing. They didn't want to go. So form a union government and chair it. But if I was going to form a union government and say, I've done my job, I came to rescue this country, 5 years on, I've done I'm going to go. Come together, for a government of your choice, and bye-bye, I go. He didn't do that. So it was crowded with there was this letter commission, this short lawyer, judge or something, his name, Abban. I don't know if I've read his name somewhere. People, it was become a little bit more like what's happening in the Soviet Union. I mean, if you want to get out of politics, get out, let the Ghanaians run their own. But he didn't do that. That's all these ideas about, Then we even came in. We found that the idea wasn't genuine. It wasn't truthful. That we wanted to get out of politics, but actually to change the cloth of, and I had it. You see, like happened in many countries, like in Egypt and so on. Seize power and then you turn yourself.
So on paper, this union government was supposed to have a combination of civilians, police, and army running the country.
It didn't actually take off.
But that was the idea.
That was the idea. But we found that it wasn't meant to extricate the military out of politics, but get involved in what you didn't want to do was going to happen in another form.
But there was a referendum.
A referendum?
To vote about it.
I don't remember. I don't remember. The idea began. This is why the people like the current president, began a movement for what was this
Freedom
movement?
of Justice.
That's right.
MFJ.
Yes, to fight this.
The union idea.
And from my experience as a military officer, as an intelligence officer, I knew that this was going to culminate into some chaotic situation if it didn't get out. I know they were not going to allow the military to hang on to power. And then this mess is going to blow up like Sudan, like Libya's, Gaddafi, Libya, and so on. So I knew that from my studies, from my abroad, I've been around many countries, across the world. Said a lot. Some very powerful institutions. But here in India, at a very high level. So we learn these things, and we learn that they're going to happen. So we wanted to get out, but he had other ideas. So by the time of the removal, I came to the conclusion that he wasn't sincere about this government idea.
So 79 begins. Country is gearing up for elections in June, but then on the 15th of May, this young pilot officer whose aviation antics you admired struck. When did you have any inkling that Flight Lieutenant Rawlings was planning something against the government of the day?
I don't know whether if I had been moved to the staff college at Teshi.
Okay, so at that time you were no longer chief of staff.
I was no longer chief of staff.
What were you then?
I was commandant, the headmaster of that school.
Okay.
At Teshi.
Where you trained the officers.
Exactly. And I left intelligence. I left the chief of staff job. So I really didn't bother too much. In fact, I didn't know about it. I didn't know about it. I don't know about the May 15th. maybe I didn't really know what Rawlings was trying to do. Mobilize a few soldiers, maybe how many of them? 7, 8, 9, and began an action that no one knew exactly where he was heading to. He was arrested, of course, for act that is unbecoming of an officer, and put on trial. So during this trial, that he gave a trial. I don't know whose idea it was, that he should be tried, in public or something. Bamaka was open to the public. I think the army was keen to tell the world that we had followed all the rules of good, what do you call it? That we are not we are giving all the chance to prove that he was actually involved in this. But that was our counter, it was wrong to do that.
You think it was a serious mistake by the army to put Lieutenant Rawlings on trial?
No. The trial.
I mean, public trial.
Well, that's what they did. And that's what cleverly Rawlings used to advertise that he wasn't doing this for himself. Because, so that those who joined him should not be punished for anything that they did. They were taking orders from him.
What is the normal, the protocol for within the army if somebody tries to overthrow a government? Do they give public trials, or they just do a court martial quietly?
No, a court martial. It wasn't a public trial. But like I said, the government wanted to ensure that the world would come in and say, "Oh, so the trial was fair, free and fair. It wasn't, the shit here with whatever. So let's do it publicly." And normally done privately, within a military barracks, put on court martial and try him. So this is what they did, and this is what Rawlings cleverly capitalized on it, advertise, and anybody would do what the soldiers did. If a man, we met at a meeting, I'm sure we'll be coming to that on Tuesday at the press center. The attention was not on me, but I found that it was on Ghana. He is a man that believed that something was wrong with our government. He believed it. He was sincere. He may have been wrong, but he believed it. So he thought something ought to be done. And when the example was removed, and then many of the colleagues were simply given a pat on the shoulder, thank you. He thought that they should have been tried and punished. But many of them had misconducted themselves. What he felt. He was sincere about this. I met him many years after before he died. He felt it.
Did you watch the trial?
No, I didn't watch it. I was busy with my
training officers.
Okay. I didn't even come once. I didn't even come once.
And then June 4th happened. June 4th, 1979. Where were you on that day?
June 4th, I was actually staying at Juba Villas, not far from. If you go to Bama Camp, you go to Bama Camp. Juba Villas just on your left. As you enter Bama Camp, your left to Juba Villas. 20, 40, 42 or thereabout, number of my house. And everything was normal. There was no indication that something was going wrong. I had a call from a good friend of mine about 3:30, 4 o'clock, that hell was breaking loose. So I should get out of the house with my family. I didn't understand it. We didn't have mobile phone those days. So radio was the only means of communicating. Get up and go away with your family at 3:30, 4 o'clock. That is sit it out. It was hell. For young children, for wives, men, we are trained to deal in a situation like this. What about the children? What about the wives? It was bad.
Were they panicking?
It was my son. Therefore, Joseph is very brave. He doesn't fear anything. But the brother, they were very panicked. It was terrible.
And your wife?
My wife, I didn't spend the night inside the house. I was in the house, but elsewhere. I didn't want to understand really what was going on. I lacked information. You can't just act without information. So I needed time to listen, to form an opinion as to what was going on. So that by the morning of June 4th, I was not inside the house. I was in the house, but not inside the house.
What does that mean?
I was in a position that I could observe and collect data for what was going on. If I'm inside the house, I wouldn't know anything. I was actually in the
You climbed up?
Climbed up and perch myself where I could have a good observation.
What did you see?
I didn't see much. But the idea was to give me time also to think.
Okay.
Actually, I was in the house the whole day of June 4th. And from morning till evening. But not inside the house. I had to come down, wherever I was. And then my wife told me there was a Reverend Father, Bonnie. I knew him from Winneba. Came to the house to find out whether my wife and children, whether we were okay. My wife said we were fine. But then he said our neighbor, I'm sure he read some kind of an info, Joe Eninfo, and his wife had been shot dead. In fact, I didn't think the matter was that serious until he said they have been shot dead. It's not a joke, it's a serious matter. Because you don't harm a wife and a child. Well, I feel very bad about what's going on in Gaza, but the children are being killed. It's terrible. We joined the army to die. So if I'm killed, it's nothing. But
No, it's no news.
No news. But when I killed children and so on, it was terrible. Then I knew that something was seriously wrong.
What was your next line of action then when you heard that?
Walk straight to the Air Force station and then hand over myself. Because when I was in the house, I was endangering the lives of my family. Well, so and so years, we are human beings, but some are evil human beings. They took cover behind the coup and caused mayhem, but treating their wives, even officers. That was terrible. And that is where I knew that if you lived above reproach, human beings, soldiers, they will show you some respect.
So you handed yourself in?
Myself in. I went to the Air Force station. And then they had taken over the government, but they didn't have any idea how to run the state, the young officers. So myself, Hamidu, Evat Machabuachi, Joe Abbey, you know him. He was a government statistician. I believe he died. I don't know whether Joe Abbey died or something. We formed a government within the government there to tell them what to do this, do that, go and do it, to get the government moving. Then about, I think it was Friday morning, the place was crowded. There were no seats. I mean, people were just sitting down and getting some sleep. Terrible. So I had a call that was wanted by the chairman of the FRC in those days. When I came out, I met President Rawlings, and he said he had got delegation from the staff college, made up of Canadians, British, Ghanaians, that they wanted me to go back to my job. And he wanted to know whether there was a report before this commotion. There's a paper in Legon. The paper was Aluta Continua, the struggle continues. And there was a report in the paper that many seniors, including me, had amassed wealth, were doing this, blah, blah, blah. But I thought it was so fully that I just ignored it. I learned a lesson. That if anybody said about you, it's not true, respond to it. So he said to me, that's President Rawlings, sir, is this true? And I said to him, this is absolute stupidity. He said, thank you, sir, you can go. That is absolute stupidity. He just said, thank you, sir. He saluted me. You see, he knew who I was. So he wasn't surprised that I displayed that thing. But the mistake I think I did was not to respond to anything. Today we have people, they are being accused of all kinds of things. Chiefs being told on Onua FM that they are criminal, they are crooks, and they don't respond. And when you don't respond, it means that you are admitting that what is being said against you is true. So I learned a lesson. If you say it against me and it's not true, I will respond immediately. Because Ghanaians would believe, oh, it's true. Unless you respond and respond strongly, it's all nonsense. So I came back and went back to my work. Senior commandant. Until when they began the shooting, the execution of first Achampong and Utuka. And
Utuka was the head of the border guards?
Yes.
Achampong was former head of state?
Yes.
Did you know anything like that was going to happen?
We haven't had a history of this before. In fact, I don't think Akufo was alive. Father Senu, is he around? There's a Reverend Father, Catholic father. Listen, anybody by that name.
I'll have to confirm.
Reverend Father is a tall chap. He's around. He came to me when I was in the guard room. That General Kufu wanted to surrender. He was around.
You were in the guard room,
He was in the F4. He himself as a priest was going around,
but you were put in the guard room.
It wasn't a guard, no. It wasn't a guard. It was a compound. We just were free to move around.
But you couldn't leave.
You couldn't leave, of course. You couldn't leave, but you were free to move around. But not to go anywhere. He came to me and said, Kufu was around, wanted to hand himself over. We didn't have a history of people being lined up. Never, not even, not in grammar school. Nobody was lined up. General Bauer was killed, but not deliberately lined up and shot. So it was a shock to me that they began to execute them. And Ghanaians were calling for more blood. The same Ghanaians were calling for more blood.
Were you surprised by that call? The call for more blood, let the blood flow.
I was surprised because Ghanaians were not the type of people that would demand, blood. And things were not as good as they should be in those days, but not compared to today. That was heaven. So you can imagine, if you don't take care, any such thing happens in Ghana. The same Ghanaians you see today, you're calling for more blood. They won't say the blood. The blood is more blood they want, not less blood.
So that execution happened on the 16th of June, 1979. It was a Saturday. Where were you when you heard that they had been killed?
No, the first one, I believe I was driving to South College. I live in Birmingham, Juba Villas. But I drove every morning to Tate Fair and then 10 left to Tishi. When I saw a lot of crowd moving, women, children.
Oh, the day of the execution?
Yes.
Okay.
Moving towards the range to witness it, to enjoy it. They were actually calling for blood, for more blood. I was shocked.
And you knew that they were about to execute?
I didn't know.
You just saw people moving there?
Yes. And they may have announced somewhere, but I didn't hear it.
So you didn't pause to watch?
No, I just drove. I slowed down. There was a lot of crowd on the street. I had to slow down in case I knocked down somebody. And I observed that they were heading towards the range. If you knew these people, it's a very painful experience, extremely painful. But these were some of the finest gentlemen you will find a way.
Did you know Utuka personally?
Very well.
What was he like? General Utuka?
You didn't become an officer just like today. You just go and see a party or something. No. You were picked. Your headmaster gave you a report of your character in the school. And you were picked based on your quality. Most of these people, they were, Kufu, Akote, and Boachi. I was regularly chief of staff meeting them. And as good as you can find. That's why I went to Britain, spent 2 years, went to Canada, went to India. You could find people, but they will fit in anyway. So to pick the people and shoot them without any real justification. They were not tried.
Years later, in your interactions with former President Rawlings, did he ever talk about the killing of these generals?
He regretted a lot. See, the problem with the late President Rawlings was that he wanted to do something. He wasn't sure. So he brought people that he thought were knowledgeable to be around him and help him to bring a change which I'm calling for now. He was calling for the same change. But what he regretted before he died was that he used to be here with me. He had some kenke and pepper together. We had a few fights, but then we always came together to eat more kenke.
Over kenke?
One day, I was driving from station. He said, I was going to eat kenke with him at a friend's house. The one he didn't turn up. So his portion, we ate what we had to eat, left his portion there. Then he came back about 2 days later. I was driving from station. I haven't gone to Bill O'Reilly in the heat of the day, about this time. Then he said, sir, the kenke, you left me, who prepared it? That's what he asked me. I said, I prepared the kenke. He said, look, that kenke is out of this world. Then he said, you want to teach him the election of 2008. That's some kenke there. He said, we should go and eat kinky. I said, to go that day,
Just for kinky.
I said, I'll cook a better kinky. Since then, every 2 weeks, we had kinky in his house at Rich. It was wonderful. He was not evil. He wasn't able to. He wanted something to happen to Ghana, like me.
Did he feel responsible for the execution of all those generals?
He felt sad.
Not responsible?
Well, he was the leader, so he wouldn't say I'm not responsible. I mean, he was the leader.
Did he take responsibility?
Yes.
Though? He did.
Yes, and he regretted that this things happened.
Did he give the order?
What happened? You see, what happened? One of the revolution. This is what I'm saying. We should be very careful where we are today. Look at Sudan. What's going on? Look at Libya. What Gaddafi went through. Saddam Hussein. How would you be responsible? How would you be able to control chaos? You can't. You took advantage. You did so many things. But as leader of the government, you have to bear responsibility. You know. And before he died, I mean, I used to sit down and talk about his regrets. You know, and I don't want to go to repeat that again.
Mm.
That's why it's important that we save this country and rebuild it in a way that will be suitable for us, not me. My time is up.
Mm.
I'm almost taking leave of you at 88, almost 88. I'm taking leave. But those of you who are coming, with my grandchildren, make sure Ghana survives and survives well.
So the coup is successful. The Armed Forces Revolutionary Council is formed, headed by Flight Lieutenant Rawlings. Did he invite you to be part of his government?
No, but I wouldn't have been part at that time. You know, first of all, the military has hierarchy issue. You're a brigadier general. You're talking about sergeants and corporals, the bureaus. It's not possible to have a meeting. It's not possible. I found later during the PNC time. It's not possible. And so even if I had been invited, I was at the Burma camp, at the general headquarters. The AFS was based at Arakan Barracks down the road. I went there once in a while, but I never sat down in any meeting with them.
So what was your role in the army at that time, in those heady days?
Ran the army the way,
So were you still in charge of the staff college, or but that?
No. I left the staff college and I've been promoted to chief of defense staff. And then, but never promoted.
What does the CDS do? Chief of defense.
Well, it's like any head of any institution. Everything is under your authority. The whole institution is under you. Mm-hmm. You have a staff that work for you. It's like a government, like a small government. Mm-hmm. Everything that happens in the government, you have it in Burma camp. You know, so, and I've had experience of since I was a young man in Nkrumah's time. Most of my time spent in Burma camp. So I had a very good idea how the institution of the military ran.
What were your biggest challenges? Because, I mean, look at the timeline. May 15th, initial attempt, which was quelled. June 4th, there's a coup d'etat. 16th of June, there's an execution of people that you knew so well. And you are CDS, Chief of Defense Staff, under a government run by junior officers, really. What were some of your biggest challenges?
It was very, very difficult. Extremely difficult. I'm glad that it didn't stay in power. Air Force stayed in power for that long. A limited objective. He came in to finish off. He said the COVID government didn't finish off the job. There was no retribution for those who had, from the military, they saw some of us as having misconducted ourselves. Mm. And he said that the government hadn't dealt enough with these people. We haven't actually, punished them enough. The Air Force actually came to punish them. A very limited objective.
Do you think that if somebody had decided that you were the one to be executed, you would not be here now? They could have shot you as well?
Who?
I mean, the coup makers, the people who wanted to punish generals and senior officers. Yeah. Is it likely that you could have suffered that fate?
Why not? It was a dangerous situation. But again, what I have learned in this world is that you are going up and down. You think that people are not watching you. People are watching you. You think that runs between me and him was a flying officer, then promoted to flight lieutenant. I was brigadier, quite very, very high. And one day, after all this, when we came together, one day we were saying that he used to fear me But I wasn't talking. I wasn't associating with anybody. But I was just a wonderful man. Look what he said of me. But if I'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time, I could have been no more. But what again I've learned is that if you check from what we did last Tuesday, you've always been, if you did wrong, you'll be punished. But I won't go out of my way to wrong you. I won't do that. So most of the junior officers, he passed away not long ago. He served under me before he went to he came to military intelligence. I was at that time. I knew him before he went to 5 Battalion, met Rawlings and so on. But if you behave properly, you should have no fears. Mensah with them. I knew all of them. All of them were young officers. So many of them are trained. So my lesson here is that, conduct yourself properly. Do your job the way you have been trained to do. And do to all manner of people what it's right to be done to them. And don't worry about what happened to you. Nature will take care of you.
Nature will take care of you. So, after that first execution, 16th June, 2 days later, there's an election. I mean, when Ghanaians traumatized by this execution, and then all of a sudden you're going to vote for a new president, a new civilian president?
You see, Ghanaians enjoyed the execution. I was shocked. They enjoyed it. When I was driving, the first execution, I was driving to Staff College and saw the glee, the joy in the faces of these people. I said, but people are going to die, and they are enjoying it. You see, when people are bitter, they have no more pain for anybody. Today, I've seen young boys roaming the street with pushing some wheelbarrows, whatever, selling something. And then I see the anguish in their face, the heat. Is it tomorrow if somebody going to be shot? Some big man there, air conditioning, they'll feel sorry for you.
Don't jubilate, eh? So it was normal. I mean, executing two officers was almost like normal. It was a happy event.
I was shocked by the reaction of Ghanaians. Mostly women, young women.
The women were jubilating.
Yes, were jubilating. Let the blood flow. I was shocked.
As long as it's not your own blood.
Your blood, yes. This is the nature of the black man. And still haven't understood why people behave in the face of such suffering. And you can see it today. You got the television, see Gaza, what's happening in Gaza. The killing going on there. Thing. And I wonder how, if soldiers died, that's why they were paid to fight and die. But when they are killing young children, small children, might be awful.
Let's talk about some of those excesses. I mean, women were being stripped naked, laid across tables, and whipped. People were just being brutalized in those times.
You couldn't explain them. Explain these behaviors. What I've learned is that we come from different backgrounds. Who you are today, Kafui, is how you have been brought up. Your father, your mother, the way, the biologically how you were, it's all important. But some are pure evil. And today, the evil will be getting into the military easier than my time. But the more screening, you will find out somewhere. Today, your party functionaries, recruit them. You're telling me about soldiers being shot where?
Mm-hmm. Yes, in Trasacco area.
Yeah. Didn't happen.
Those are 2 police officers, and the soldier was shot in Kaswa,
yes,
Millennium City.
Yeah. We are getting hardened, getting more evil. Because the nature of the world has become such that if you are honest and sincere, you won't survive.
Does it frighten you, this level of evil as you describe it?
It worries me, not for myself, but for the coming generations. I can't see a future for them. The way things are going, I can't see a future.
Is that bleak?
It is bleak because today, I keep on going back to my own past. Just imagine, Kafui, your mother is selling in the market, your father is a fisherman, and you become chief of defense staff. Today, it will never happen. Never. And nobody push you. Nobody intervene on your behalf. People that you met along the road were prepared to assist you.
But you work hard and go.
Oh, I remember, and in Nkrumah, Nkrumah became a leader to build a new Ghana, a new Africa. Not today. I had a headmistress in school, Mrs. Gibson. Nkrumah brought Mrs. Gibson to run the school. We didn't have food to eat. My mother used to cook kenke food for us to eat in a boarding school. We were hungry, but food was so plentiful that we could find food to eat and survive. The headmistress, Nkrumah brought a woman to come and run the school. And she was, and Nkrumah was somebody that, you know, people didn't know him. He was a man on a mission to build Ghana, build a new Africa. But he threatened too much the white people, and they had got to get rid of him. This woman came, like Nkrumah, a clone Nkrumah, sharp, you know, 10 things round. I had to be in the school, in the woman's, she didn't know me, teacher of mathematics, and be sleeping in the house. In the morning, be cleaning the house. And I didn't have money to pay my school fees at one point in time. I was wondering what to do. It's been difficult, it's been tough along the way. This woman one morning just came to me and asked me, before I left the house and come back in the evening, Nunoo Mensah, who pays your school fees? Just like that. Caught me by surprise. I said, my mother pays my school fees. Your mother, what does she do? So my mother sells foodstuff in the market. She did the market. And she said, that's all she does? How does she pay your fees? He knew I wasn't speaking the truth. She asked me, where is your mother? I said, my mother's in the house. Tomorrow morning or Monday morning, it was Saturday, bring your mother to my house. I will take it to Accra and get you a scholarship. I swear. I can swear by the Bible, by the Quran. She got my mother in the heat of the sun, not as hot as today. And she got me a scholarship to get to where I am today. It doesn't happen like that. So when I'm building school, like you heard last Tuesday, because of my own experiences, I began to see pain in the eyes of those that can be helped. We are not doing that today. Today, everybody is commandeering the state assets and sharing them, not caring that the poor woman on the street and at Makola deserve also to be looked at.
And so you think that what's happening right now mirrors what happened 45 years ago, where people felt that, listen, there's too much rot going on. So if people are even being sent off to go and be killed, there will be jubilation because people have had enough.
It will be much worse. The pain now is really pain. Those days, people were jealous of. I mean, I've got a car here which is almost as old as you. And if I put the battery on, it will start. People in the military were angry that in those days their colleagues were looking more prosperous, looking, clearly that they had money from somewhere. They didn't like it. I was the intelligence, so I knew. They didn't like it. And civilians, I mean, people like Akufo had a house, one of these houses. It cost today's price 2 cedis, 50 pesos, to buy the house and the land around here. And I would drive my own personal car to work at CDS. But I knew that those who didn't have what I had would be jealous of me, would be angry. And today, I'm telling you, if you look at young boys, women pushing wheelbarrows and so on, selling items, like the anger in them, you can't believe it.
So a lot of anger. And so I'm imagining what the mood was, where on the 16th of June, there was an execution. On the 18th of June, 1979, there was elections. And then on the 26th of June, another set of executions. Were the shouts for let the blood flow still as loud?
No,
for the second execution?
I think getting to even Rawlings himself, they thought that the enjoyment of let the blood flow will continue. But then they felt that there was a bit of counter reaction. They were thinking about the necessary for all the blood to be, So people began to
pull back
feel exactly in that position. Felt bad about it.
Was that one announced or it just appeared out of the blue? That set of those.
For example, there was another line of men to be executed.
Yes.
But then they called it off.
After the second execution?
Yes.
There was a third?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Who was on that list?
I don't want to mention that. Some are alive today. I don't want to mention that.
Were you on that list?
I know. Thank God I wasn't on the list.
There was a third line?
I think that the reaction shocked people like Rawlings. The initial enjoyment was dying down.
Is this public knowledge that there was another list of people? Do people who
No,
Have you said this
I mean,
before?
I knew there was another list, but they call it off.
What were the ranks of those? You don't have to mention their names, but the ranks. What were the ranks of those officers?
No, most of these people will be senior officers. The ranks of colonels, most of the colonels, a lot of them.
How many people were on that list?
No, I wouldn't be able to tell exactly how many, but I knew that there was another execution to take place,
Wow.
but that was called off.
Still at the same venue, Teshi?
Yes.
Were you aware of this? I mean, did you chance by the second execution as well? You know, the first one you drove by and you saw
I
people.
saw the first one. Second one is, then I got to know, and I wouldn't want to be there. I meant to see my colleagues, just honorable people like Akofo being blindfolded, and I mean, I couldn't stand it. And I couldn't stand it.
So after they killed that, and that was Feli, Amadume. There was two more.
There was
Boachi.
Herbert Macha Boachi. There was Kote.
Kote, yes, those four.
That Wellington died in action.
He died on the June 4th day.
That's right.
Indeed.
You
knew him also personally. Well, that's Wellington.
I knew him very well. He was my senior. I mean, when I went to Sandhurst, he was in his last year, last term. So they were my seniors. I knew him very well. A real soldier. A real soldier. I mean, you have two types of soldier officers. He was a real soldier. That's why, I don't know what I would have done what they did. The day of the coup, tried to mobilize his forces to counter it, and they got him to Nima and shot him.
They killed him around Nima.
Nima police station, But, after the event, we are wiser. But when you're in the heat of this, you have to take a decision. It's not a joke.
And so the AFRC described that period between June and September as a house cleaning exercise.
Yes.
What did they mean by that?
They didn't come to rule. When they didn't come to rule, they didn't have integrity to stay in power. Because they were angry that a lot of people had got away with murder and they were going free. They thought that the Akofo regime should have dealt with these people before leaving office. They were not dealing with them. And they felt that, and I can understand why Akofo, I was in the regime, in the government, even though I wasn't, I was chief of staff, so I was a part of the regime. We felt that we didn't have the time to go through a process to try them. To take a few months, maybe a year or more. So we wanted to just get out of the business of governing the country. But they are blamed for not punishing those that they foresaw to be. Some of you could see that they were not honest enough. But there was no time to really put them on trial, charge them, put them on trial for what? But this is what I would blame them. That's why they came to power, to finish off what was not done.
Do you empathize with those who hold the AFRC and President Rawlings and Major Bachijan responsible for the collapse of their lives, their businesses, their fortunes? There are so many people who have been affected by the excesses of that period.
See, these situations, when you look at them, and again, I keep on talking about other countries where they have gone through this. You blame it on Gaddafi, blame it on Saddam Hussein, blame it on Numeri of Sudan. You couldn't. It was going to happen. I myself, I wasn't surprised June 4th came. I wasn't surprised.
You were not surprised?
No, because we had gone to see a champion earlier to warn about this happening. I felt that with my training, my experience, something of this sort would happen. And today, I feel that if you don't wake up, then something of this sort would happen.
Today, are you talking to the current head of state and the
Yes, people? I'm talking to him through you.
Through me? Okay, all right. I'm a mouthpiece. I understand what you mean. Yes, that
they will hear.
They will hear. You can't get a direct access to like what you used to have back then.
No, why would I have thought that? Why would I have thought that? To be honest with you, they would call. In fact, there's a need for a national dialogue because we are in a crisis. We're in a crisis. Whether NPP or NDC, they won't be able to tackle the problem. The country is too much. I was telling this morning, just before you came here, if you buy kinky, you won't get pepper to eat the kinky. It's that bad. It's that bad. You know, and it's very serious that we can end up with a situation where Ghanaians will be dying of famine. It's possible. We are heading toward that situation. And it's time to sit down with the Ghanaians and across party. And General, what do you think? What can we do? We are in a crisis.
So we sit down and try and resolve things.
Yes. Sit down in Castle or somewhere and have a glass of something, Coke or something, and and do that. Because from experience, look at when people in northern part of our sub-region, Burkina, Mali, Guinea, Niger, when they showed them, the ECOWAS said, we have sacked you. Learn from their misfortune and lessons from it. Make sure it doesn't happen to you. Instead, we said, sack them. And if all is well. All is not well.
All is not well. And all wasn't well back in 79. We're looking back 45 years to those heady days, really tumultuous events. To think that after all those 2 rounds of executions, 2 coup d'etats, one of which succeeded, lots of violence and retribution, there was an election which brought in, there was a second round in July, and then President Hilary Mann
PNP
became the president of the only president of the Third Republic of Ghana. Could you have judged that he was going to win that election?
Well, I didn't judge because I removed the Bush administration. So obviously they were favoring the opposition, which was CPP based. I mean, to come to power. But I didn't get involved with that. The problem with people like us is that when you are trained not to be political, you are very non-political. I didn't want to get involved with the politics at all because I'm not a politician.
So you're not excited that PNP won that election?
No. I mean, I had no reaction. I mean, neutral reaction.
How did that election affect you in terms of your career as an army officer?
The only time it affected me was that Rawlings, I have a picture, I don't know whether I can show it to you, where when we were transferring power to Liman, I was standing in the middle of the thing. Beaming with that happened because at long last we have been able to extricate ourselves from politics.
And you were still chief of defense staff then?
Staff.
Okay.
Then a few months later, it was in September, late November, suddenly we were dismissed.
You and who?
Myself, Anokwenu, and President Rawlings. Rawlings won. In fact, that night, when they dismissed us, I was in my house at Juba Villas, and suddenly we was there without any indication, just came out of the blue. I was called to go to the castle about 10:30, 11, see the president.
In the evening?
In the morning.
In the morning, okay.
So I just took my car. I drive there myself. I go there. Then I sit down there for the whole afternoon. Nobody called me to tell me anything. Then I began to be suspicious that something funny was going to happen. About 1:30, 2 o'clock, about 10:30, 11, nobody has called me. So I went to Dr. Nabila. I went to Nabila. I don't know whether you heard his name. He was the secretary to the president. Opened the door. He was in his office as the president. You called me here.
What's going on?
What's going on? You see, the people like courage, and if you are a man, be a man. Have courage, a little bit of it. Then he said, then he opened the president's office next door. No, he wasn't there. I think he didn't know, he knew. He's a good friend of mine. Then everybody ran away from their sack, but they were afraid to bail the car. I mean, the car, might agreed to go and bail the car, but who should bail the car? So he said, okay, it's not, let's go and see the vice. Vice President, Jacob Johnson. I don't know what.
Yes, I know him.
Yeah. There you go there. His office next to the main building. Which I'm rubbing his hand like. My father fisherman had come back from sea and enjoying his catch. Then he said, we decided to retire you. Just like that.
Boom.
Boom, like that. Then
Did you see it coming?
I was beginning to feel that way, that something funny was happening. I tell you. So I said, okay, thank you. I was going. So, if you can find it, now when
Meaning?
find something for you to do.
He want to find something for you to do, or
But yes.
after retiring you?
Yes, I was going away. I mean, I was walking out.
What did he want you to do after retiring you?
I sat down and I said to him, Infante, my father is a fisherman. I know how to fish. There are a lot of fishing nets in my house. I know how to look after myself. Thank you. Later on, he told a friend of mine, and I walk away, told a friend of mine that the anger that came into me, if I had got out, shot him. Is what he said. Because he said I was so angry. If I was near the guy, I've shot him. Shot him for what? I wouldn't have shot him. Because all these things happen in the world. They have a beginning, and they will have an end. So I walked away. When I was coming, that day, must have been, what day was it? Wednesday or Thursday. There was a football match between Ghana, one of these African elimination things, Ghana and Kenya at the Accra Sports Stadium. And before the match, I mean, during the commentary, there was a flash news. I didn't even know that the chief of defense staff and the army commander, blah, blah, and Kwenu and whatever, have all been retired forthwith.
General Kone was the army commander?
Yes.
Okay.
As I come from the castle, there was soldiers on guard there. They look at me. They heard this. It looks so terrible that African, I don't know how we behave like that. What if I've got to do something painful, something, do it in a way that will lessen the pain.
Mm.
But to soldiers there, they didn't know what to salute me. I mean, I didn't even know that day. I didn't know about this football. It's the evening when I heard this that we announced
on the radio
without me being knowing. How do you teach human beings like this? Did
you ever meet President Liman after that moment?
I don't think I really met him properly, no. And in fact, that night of our dismissal, there was a heavy downpour. I was in my house, went about 7:30. Somebody bashed into my house. It was Rollins walking in a heavy downpour, very wet. Then he said, sir, you advised me to hand over power to these people. Look at what they've done to you. They asked me for some whiskey. I had a black label.
Did you
I don't drink.
Did you give it to him?
No, he poured the whole full glass. He poured full glass and drank the thing like water and walked away in the rain. Then I knew the man was in trouble.
How did
the anger in him was palpable. You can feel the anger.
He had also received the news that you had also gotten.
No, we have all been sacked.
Yeah.
Announced. He heard it. And I think, I feel sad about our leadership, political leadership. If you want to do a job like this, learn to do it in a manner that will not, hurt them. But since that time, what they've done to me on 2 or 3 occasions. So it's the nature of the black man. You must rub it in, make sure that you feel the pain. I don't know why.
And do you think that anger probably expressed itself maybe a year later, 2 years later, 31st December?
Oh, that produced at 31st December. That certainly produced
that wet night where he took the full glass of black label.
The anger in him, he was so angry. And surely, I actually called Rollins at Arakan Barracks and advised them. Everybody went. He wouldn't go. I said, it doesn't matter. If he alone had been retired, it wouldn't have hurt him. Because he knew, having been head of state, he couldn't fit in. He knew. But when people who protect what they did, like myself and Queen, had also been removed, he knew the way was open to come after them. They had no protection.
Do you know how General Quenu felt with his
He felt extremely bad. He was actually sent on a mission to Brownford, doing some work. When the soldiers heard this, they looked at him. He didn't know that he had been sacked. He didn't know. He was working among his soldiers, not knowing that he was no longer the army commander.
That would be very embarrassing.
I mean, they've done things that are not human. They're animalistic, and they are not human.
But others will also say you, the soldiers, and some of your men were also responsible for a lot of turmoil in our country.
I'm not.
With your. This is not an equalization, but
No.
just that these are facts.
No, they are facts.
They've
And I
happened.
agree with you.
Yeah.
That's why I kept on telling you I don't support military regime. I've said it several times. I don't walk into military regime with my eyes wide open. No, I won't do it. But if you have to deal with, there are many cases in my life. People are very nasty. I wouldn't have been nasty. If you have to break bad news to somebody, find a way to do it in a way that do not cause. I had a problem with our one of our presidents, President Mahama. Similar thing. Very similar. So I was saying to myself, don't we learn politics? Learn from our mistakes or other mistakes of the past. We don't. And when they want to hurt you, they want to make sure that it hurts you.
It's almost vindictive, right?
Yes.
As we end this conversation, looking back at the events of 45 years ago, 1979, a really, really pivotal year in Ghana's history, what is the key lesson that you have taken from all these events that happened? The executions, the coup d'etats, the political ups and downs, everything that has happened, not just to you personally, but to the country. What is the key lesson that we can draw from it that will be relevant to us in 2024 and beyond?
I want to come forward even from 79, come forward a little bit to the fourth Republican Constitution, 892, to the current state. The way we are behaving, I don't know whether we learned any lessons at all from the past. I don't know whether we learned anything at all. Because I find that the mistakes that were committed then, as far back as 66, 72, there was a little coup. I don't know whether you remember this one. This was 67, Arthur's coup. There's a coup by a gentleman called Arthur and Yabua. All these experiences have gone through them. But I think, even to today, as if we have learned nothing at all, which is what saddens me, that we're going to be in a much worse situation than we've ever been in the past. Because we are not learning from the past. We're not learning from the past. Because today, as we sit here, this heat that we I haven't seen it like this before. While places like Tanzania, Kenya, they are being washed away by floods. We are being cooked. They are being cooked by the sun. And we are sitting down. I know you're going to be hungry. But our leaders, I don't know what is wrong with our leaders. I don't know. I'm trying to, maybe whether I would behave the same. But I don't think I would. Because from what we saw last Tuesday, you were there. The pamphlet we launched, there's a quotation from Nkrumah at the back, a very powerful quotation. Africa must unite. He's saying that we need a new African, a new citizen, with many qualities mentioned them, of integrity, humility, feeling for the nation rather for himself. And we are behaving like we have never had any experience to learn from. So, what lessons have there? There are a lot of lessons, but we've learned nothing. One lesson I've learned myself is that if you read at the quotation I am giving you from that, it's somewhere around in the back of the book. I am who I've been all this while. I haven't changed at all. All the things I talked about last Tuesday, building school here, going here, is something I had done all my life. I didn't learn them. I learned a few experiences to actually make me look better. But if you're not born like that, you cannot be like that. You cannot be. And I'm surprised that our leaders don't see that we are in a crisis. I can see a lot of we are in a crisis. I had a terrible dream. I'm sure, I don't know what I've mentioned this to you. 7 December 2020, we voted. And I have dreams just like that. I had a dream which was awful. And I knew it was going to happen. I dreamed that my bed was not far from here, sleeping and deep asleep. And a plane was taking off. The pilot was struggling in the cockpit. The plane was going to crash. He was struggling to control the plane. And then I was asleep, deep asleep. But I was praying to God, to protect those on board, those on the ground. It's serious crash. Then suddenly there was a major explosion. Huge explosion. The day we voted. And I was praying to God to protect us on board, those on the ground. Really terrified. Then I fell asleep. Again, the same night. Then I dreamt again. I was in Tam Harbor. I don't know what I went to do there. In suit, coat and tie. I went to the harbor. A boat arrived. The boat capsized. People were dying. I jumped into the harbor to save lives. A lot of lives. I was, it was so clear. Saved so many lives. I was exhausted. So I jumped on board of the concrete, there. Then I sat down. Then my eyes opened. And I sat down to think, this dream you had is an awful dream. In fact, when Nkrumah, the coup Nkrumah school, I dreamed about it. When Nkrumah took off for Hanoi, a day or two later, I think it was on the 19th or something, I had a dream that the plane had crashed. So I switched on my radio by my bedside. Then at BBC News, no plane crash. Thank God. It was just a funny, stupid dream. 2 days later, a coup d'etat, Nkrumah never stepped back in Ghana. That dream said that told me that Nkrumah would not come back to Ghana alive. I want to try to see our leaders and some of these tell them. This dream about the plane crash, I tried to see the president. I knew him very well. Because these dreams, I know that what we are going through is going to be hell. I know something's going to blow up. But when you talk to them, nobody wants to hear you. Nobody wants to hear you. It doesn't cost anything to assemble a few senior people. Those in our 80s, 70s, 80s. God willing, in 2 years' time, I'm going to be 90. 90 is not a life to joke about. So that you have amassed a lot of experience, a lot of common sense across the world. Put it together and ask us, look, we're in a crisis. Please, what can we do? We are sitting down. And we are going to sing. We are sitting there doing nothing. People are Winneba, I'm going to Winneba. I have to take my kenke and pepper to go to Winneba. This is serious. There's no food to eat. Nobody cares. So there are lessons we have learned. But the younger ones, not even your age group, your children, they are today a French prime minister. He was 34 years old. And our youth, they are just as if nothing bothers them. They line up at the American embassy for visitors to go away to America. Who said America, there's peace? Who told you? We have to build Ghana for ourselves and our children. But our leaders are not learning anything. I don't know what's wrong with us. So that is my big worry, that we are not learning not to repeat the mistakes of the past. Otherwise, why you'll be there one day? You say Rollins was bad. You will see something. You see a man with 10 times worse than Rollins. You see, because if you look at the history of Libya, for example, Saddam Hussein in Iraq, Sudan, look at what Sudan has been torn apart. I was in South Sudan when they got independence. Look at them too. Africa is just on the boil, and nothing is happening to make us any better.
So a note of caution from a man who has seen a lot in his almost 90 years on Earth. Brigadier General Joseph Nunoo Mensah, recounting the events that led up to a really pivotal year in Ghana's history, 1979, 45 years back, but also looking forward to the future. General, thank you so much for this opportunity. And tell me what struck you most about this interview. Put your comments down below, and let's have a conversation about remembering 1979, a very crucial year in Ghana's history. My name is Kafride. This has been History Time, and God willing, we'll meet again in the next video.